Everybody stand up. Just real quick. Wow, you're all looking at me. No, everybody turn to your neighbor and tell them something that you like about me. Go for it. Once you've done that, then you can sit down. Then that's fine, okay? I heard someone say that I was really handsome, so thanks, Mom. Wouldn't it be great if I would just tell you why we're doing that? So, James chapter 2, because I'm not going to tell you. James chapter 2, it's where we're going to be this morning. It's week 2 of the 5-week series through James. Who read it throughout the week? Like we said we would last Sunday? Who read chapter 2 to prepare for this Sunday? Yeah? No? Okay. Y'all are smart, because had you raised your hand, I'd have brought the mic and had you go through some notes. But see, that's kind of the whole point about last week, though, wasn't it? The listening and the doing. And not to, just stab a hot poker to drive the point home, but, to have read one chapter. Look, I'll show you. Chapter 2 starts down here and goes right there. It took me 5 minutes to read it the first time. I read it several times. But that's so important, right? Just a simple act of reading the chapter to prepare for this week, and it's still hard to find just the 5 minutes to do it. And so James continues to talk about how to develop ourselves, how to make ourselves better, but through faith in action as kind of the umbrella. Remember, the series that we're covering is Christianity is a Verb. It's a verb. So when we start in chapter 2, there are 2 sections, right? My Bible has them, the little subtitles, right? There's favoritism forbidden and faith in deeds. That's what we're going to cover today. So let's talk about the first one first, favoritism. James says that when you show favoritism, you're acting as a judge. And I think it's really important that he says that, because I think that's something that we all struggle with a little bit, right? We all have the robes at home, don't we? Where I get to be judge of something, where I get to judge others. And the worst part about it is, a lot of the time, we're filtering the judgment through the Jesus filter to say, well, I'm not perfect, but I could maybe be considered a pretty good benchmark. And so, gosh, they're a lot worse than I am, so I can feel a lot better about myself. Oh, you got your robe on. Or, I can't believe so-and-so did that. Oh, you got your robe on. Right? There are things, speaking of judgment, a couple weeks ago I talked about a knife that I bought, and it was really expensive, and I was trying to make the point that it was only really expensive if you thought it was really expensive, and then I was the only one who thought that it wasn't expensive, so y'all squash that, thanks. Yesterday, I'm opening a box with it, and I just barely touched my thumb and just sliced it right open. And there's only one thought that I had in my mind at that moment. Can y'all guess it? It was worth every penny. That was so sharp. Right? Okay, but as I'm bleeding all over myself, I'm thinking, I can't tell Charlotte because she's going to put her robe on and come over here and be like, see, I told you. Blah, 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 blah. Anybody else's wife sound like that? No, you're smart men of God. Don't raise your hand. There's that wisdom growing within us. Like, Tim, you're alone on that one. The next point that James makes is who are you to judge, right? Who are we to judge? And it feels hard because there's that line of, so then what is, Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. The friction of holding each other accountable is what sharpens the both of us. So what is the line between accountability and judgment? How do we balance on that line? And how do we make sure that we don't wind up wearing the robe when what we're trying to do is help our brothers and sisters be better? And there's no really great fine-tuned answer for that other than what's in your heart when you're having that conversation. Is it a judging heart? Is it a judgmental heart? The thing that's really kind of a downer is that we have no place to judge because we are all sinners. Right? The first bullet point in your notes is the next point that James makes, which is, if you keep the law, all of the law, but stumble on just one point, you're a lawbreaker. Do you get that? If you keep the law, but stumble on one point, you're a lawbreaker. And he gives us a specific example. I'm going to miss it. It's fine. Forget it. The point is, sorry, I thought I could find it. The point is this. When you stumble on one point, you're a lawbreaker. Something that we do far too often is, because we're humans and we like order, we like ranking, we like levels, we like systems. And so we take sin and we put it into this bookshelf so that we can look at it. And of course, murder is like way up here. Like really, really, you shouldn't do that. Then there's like adultery, please don't, and then under that is like other sexual sins maybe, and then under that is, well, like don't like covet other people's stuff and don't praise other gods but God, and then under that is like lying. That is totally us getting our big feet in the way, right? And the way that James says it is, don't you understand that one point is all it takes for you to be a lawbreaker? Because the same one, the same voice, the same God that said, do not murder, is the same God that says, do not commit adultery. The same God that says, do not covet. The same God that says, do not lie. Right? And so when we try to make sense of this hierarchy, it's real easy to point the finger at those top ones, those murderers and those adulterers. And then it's like, well, watch out. Watch out. Because to us, to our human imperfect perception, there's a system, there's a hierarchy. But to God, sin is a sin. And to break one makes you a lawbreaker. Now, the good part of the other side of that coin is, of course, that then he sent his son Jesus to die for us, because there's no way that we could live perfectly. Right? And so here's the reason that it happens, that we're talking about the favoritism right after the trials and temptations, right after the listening and doing, and right before the faith and deeds, is that at this time, there was a lot of favoritism shown, right? Those who had a lot of money, those who tithed well, those who dressed well, they got to sit in the front, they got to come in early, they got the best choice of the sacrament, right? And then the poor people, they sat in the back, they got what was ever left over. And he says, don't you know that the poor are the ones who are going to inherit the kingdom of heaven? To show favoritism is also to show your naivete, is also to show your ignorance. Because our favoritism here is meaningless, right? So what kind of favoritism do we show? We see it all the time. We struggle with it. I struggle with it, right? I'm going to spend my time with some people and not spend my time with other people because they drive me crazy, or I know that I drive them crazy and I respect that, or there's lots of different ways that we show favoritism. The next point down is, he says, speak as those who are going to be judged, right? There's this little sign that I have in my hall bathroom. It hangs over my potty. And it says, wash your hands and say your prayers, because Jesus and germs are everywhere. Is that great? Is that great? But as awesome as it is, and as great and as fun as that is, it's also the truth, right? Like when we're off in a dark corner with the door closed and locked, we will say and do things that we wouldn't say if Carlos Leal was in the room. I mean, just tell me that's not the truth, right? Okay? That if Bonnie knew what was going on, you'd be horrified. And these are just human examples. The truth is that God sees all the time. And he sees through into our heart. So if we're going to speak as those who are going to be judged, what it means is to recognize we're the ones to be judged, not to judge. I can't show favoritism. I can't judge you because I'm the one on trial. Speak as those who are going to be judged should change your vocabulary. And not everybody's, because some of us struggle with some of this more than others of us struggle with this, but if you're speaking as a judge, to speak as one who is to be judged flips your world upside down and turns your perception on its ear, okay? The next one, and the last little one, is that mercy triumphs over judgment. So, I think it's appropriate to identify that there's a little bit of personal development while we are building up disciples for Christ at the same time. Okay? Mercy triumphs over judgment because mercy will be shown to those who are merciful. And against those who are judgmental will judgment be levied, right? And so while at the same time this helps you with your interpersonal relationships, showing mercy more than judgment, showing mercy more than judgment, and gosh, everybody on the receiving end is going to benefit from that a lot. Also, you're saving yourself a little bit, right? Because if you are more merciful, you will receive mercy. But if you are more judgmental, judgment is coming down. And so this is as much save people from your humanness as it is save yourself from judgment that's coming. Show the mercy, because mercy triumphs over judgment. One last point on this section is that, like I said, favoritism comes in a lot of different ways. Okay, it's not just financial favoritism. It's not just favoritism toward those who have financial resources. Favoritism comes in a lot of different ways, so many that I can't even describe them all. But you know, just like I did when I was reading it and I was preparing and it was hitting me, I was like, oh yeah, I do that right here. That's where I do it. Oh, yep, that's where I do it. Let yourself be spoken to Where are you showing favoritism? And where do you recognize favoritism as being shown? Even if it's outside of you and your exact one-on-ones, you see it, you can identify it. Where is it? Don't say it out loud. Okay? But then you take that and you apply it to what's already been read, which is listening and doing. To sit here and listen about not showing favoritism and then leave this place and show favoritism is the same as like looking in the mirror and then immediately forgetting what you look like when you turn around. Christianity is a verb, y'all. Dare I say, a present progressive verb. You're welcome, Dad. That's an ing verb. That means it's ongoing. It's constant. Christianity is constant. Don't let it fall. Next one. Faith and deeds. Man, guys, this one is a big, big button. It was a button way back when we were in youth, when I was in youth. That was years ago. Fewer years than some of you, but more years than others of you. Faith and deeds. Gosh, the first point that he makes is that faith, if not accompanied by action, is dead. Remember when we talked about the armor of God, right? What was the piece of armor that was faith? The shield. Big faith is big protection, right? But the shield is not an offensive weapon. That you can't, right? Faith without action is dead. Now, he's very careful, and I'm very careful to make sure that we're saying the right words, that faith without action is dead. That's not to say that faith is worthless, or that faith is dead, or that faith doesn't mean anything. Here's an example. It happened in, the first time I saw it was regarding Harvey, and then Hurricane Harvey, and then it's been popping up everywhere. It is this meme. Y'all know what a meme is? For some of y'all, I'll have to explain it. It's a picture with words on it. There's this meme, and it's like it's a big semi truck with the back open, and it's empty. And on it, it says, "First load of thoughts and prayers have arrived for the residents of Houston." That's horrible, right? So that to me says that person has zero concept of the power of prayer. But at the same time, that's a decent example of faith without deeds, that there's no tangible outcome for the faith without the overflow, right? So James says that some of you will say, "You have faith, I have deeds, I will show you my deeds. And therefore, I'm better. Look at all the good stuff I'm doing. You're doing nothing. I'm doing all of these things." And so it almost doesn't matter the motivation. What matters is the thing that I'm doing. And James says, no. That's backwards. The next point is, I will show you my faith by my deeds. Right? The fruit comes from the tree. Right? And so we've talked about this before, about how your behaviors and your beliefs, they're tied. You can't separate them. What you believe is going to fuel how you behave. If you believe that you will be judged, then that will fuel your behavior into speaking as one who is going to be judged. If you believe that all this is nonsense, then that's how you will behave, whether you really mean to or not. The fuel that's inside is what produces what comes out. And so it's not faith or deeds. It's the marriage of the two. My deeds are are fueled by the faith that I have. That's why I do it. That's how I do it. Right? Is it more powerful to step out onto the raging waves when Jesus calls you out? Or to have the faith that you're going to step out onto the waves and not just drown? They're tied together. The inconceivability of walking on water when that's not humanly possible is equally paired with the inconceivability of someone who would have the faith to step out of a perfectly good boat into the raging ocean. To me, they are one. They are connected. Just like the deeds are connected with the faith. Faith without deeds is dead. The next one is, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. We'll come back to that point in a minute. I want to tell you a little story. If I'm going to be honest, I saw it online. I don't know where it's from. I don't know where it takes place. But there's a town, and they haven't seen rain in years. And they're struggling. They're really suffering for this lack of rain. And so the mayor calls out all of the practicers of witchcraft and all of those who claim to have astrological powers, and he calls them to the city center, to the town square, and he says, do what you do and get us rain. We're going to die. And so they all do their incantations or their dances or whatever, and it doesn't work. No rain. And so then he's like, all right, get out of here. So then he calls in all the shaman, and you know, they're near enough to a pretty rural area. There are some Native American tribes, and they get those leaders to come and do what you do and get us rain because we're going to die. And there's some dancing and there's some singing and there's no rain, though. And there are several more layers of that, but the way that the story ends is there's one little boy who comes out into the middle of the city square and he prays, "Dear God, will you give us rain?" Downpour. And the difference is everybody else brought their instruments for their dance, brought their special attire, they brought their loud voices, they brought their choreography. The little boy only brought one thing: an umbrella. You see that? That's a great example of the faith and deeds being brought together. If you have enough faith to believe that when I pray, God is going to make it rain, guess what? I'm going to need an umbrella because it's going to be coming down. Can we approach life that way? Can we do the same? Do we have our umbrellas with us as we're doing our prayer for our rain? Or have we accidentally or intentionally helped with the splitting of the faith and the deeds? So we come to a place and we worship together, and I have faith that when I die, I'm going to go to heaven, and then I do deeds also, you know, good stuff. I do good stuff. I help out with this, and there's a volunteer opportunity, and I take it, and then I'm part of this organization, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm a Christian guy, so of course, come on. But they don't just go together because you say they go together. One is fueled by the other. The last point I want to make is that the original language of the text for that verse, as the body is without the spirit, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. The word for spirit there can also be translated as breath. As the body without breath is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. I think that's significant because breath is evidence of life. When they're teaching you how to do CPR, anybody CPR certified? It's okay. What do you do first? You run over, you tilt their head back, and you put your ear to their mouth to listen for the breath. You watch the rise and fall of their chest to see if there is breath in them. The breath is the evidence of the life. It's the evidence. I'm talking to someone in here. It's the evidence of life. In the same way, the deeds that come from the faith are the evidence of the faith. And so another point is that I know that as I stand before you, I'm the peak example of physical shape. And so I know a lot about working out, okay? I do it all the time. You know what's my favorite is cardio? Oh, man. Tim, we get it, you're fat. What are you talking about? So what I'm talking about is when I work out, I breathe hard. Did you get it? When I work out, I breathe hard. The thing that I want to make sure that we leave with today is hope. I know that when I read James, I read it at least once a year. When I read James, often I feel just like, oh, I'm a terrible person. And then I have to go read John, where Jesus came and died for me, and I can feel like, okay, good. I'm not completely worthless. But James doesn't have to be just condemning. Guys, there's hope in there, right? Because if our deeds aren't shown, if our deeds aren't the evidence of our faith, if we feel like we have more faith than our deeds are evidence of, or if we feel like, man, I have this faith, but I don't feel like it's strong enough faith to step out of my comfort zone and do the deeds that need to be done, I'm telling you right now, you can work out. Work out your faith. Strengthen your faith, and you will breathe heavy. And as you breathe heavy, the deeds, the evidence will become more and more evident. Right? We can work out. And the thing that you need to have when you work out is a workout buddy. Right? Anybody ever go to the gym by yourselves? No, you don't. Put your hands down. Because I would not go to the gym unless I got that text that said, hey, bro, I'm here. Are you close? And I'm like, yes, I'm getting out of bed. There's accountability that can be had. We can grow in each other. We can build each other up. And we can increase our faith. And as we increase our faith and stretch that faith muscle, we will breathe heavy. And the deeds, the spirit, the breath, which is the evidence of life, will be exponentially grown. Right? And it's important that we know about the relationship between those two. When you're really fit, let me tell y'all, when you're really fit, you have to work really hard to get winded, right? If you're not really fit, one good sermon could get you really sweaty, is what I hear. So the thing is, if we have let ourselves as an individual, as a small group, as a Sunday school class, as a church, as a city, all the way up, if we as the Christian body have let ourselves get kind of fat and lazy. It's not too late. We just got to go to the gym. But not We get ourselves a partner and we go and we stretch that muscle. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to stretch that muscle. Are y'all ready? Next week, we're going to have read chapter 3 by the time we get here. Right? Okay. I was going to go on, but you said right, so why beat a dead horse? Guys, I get so encouraged getting to do this, you know? And I'm loving James. It's a hard book to get through sometimes because it's very convicting. You know, you feel like, oh, we get to go another week and listen to Tim tell us how we're not good enough Christians. But it's not Tim, it's James. But what we can learn and how we can grow is incredible. And if we can grow each other, if we can grow ourselves, then we can grow the church, then we can, there's no ending, there's no stop. Nothing is impossible with Christ. Let's pray about it. Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us the scripture to help us work through the faith and the deeds questions in our lives, that we don't get caught up in one without the other, but that we know that they go together. Lord, we pray that you give us the strength and the wisdom to not show favoritism, and at the same time to not speak as a judge, to not be the judge for who are we to judge, but to speak as those who will be judged. And to remember that when it comes to you and your word, when it comes to reaching out to tell people about you, when it comes to building each other up as disciples, that mercy triumphs over judgment. Lord, every week we get in your word. I just thank you so much for the word that we have to grow in our relationship with you as we grow in our knowledge of it and our familiarity with it. Lord, help us to continue to grow.